Okay, this whole idea actually came from another advisor who had a ton of his clients. They were asking him about the stimulus checks. If you remember those, when the first time that was mentioned. Okay, he had, and this is a multi-$100 million asset manager, like probably close to $1 billion under management at this point that we're working with. That we're talking about. He basically, again, when COVID hit, no matter how big or small you were, like your business size, it rattled you. Okay. What mattered, the only difference between the big and the smaller advisors are typically how they pivoted and how fast they pivoted. So he had a ton of his clients reach out to him, and he did a lot of live events. So he ended up shutting those down for obvious reasons. But he had a lot of his clients reach out to him asking about the stimulus checks. Hey, am I going to get these stimulus checks? What is this going to do to my taxes? Do I need to report this? Will my kids get it too? Do I have to, he's getting all these questions. And put yourself in the mindset of this advisor for a second. Again, super busy days, managing a ton of staff, and then he's getting all these questions from his clients that he doesn't typically get because they're going direct to him because it's somewhat of a, I don't want to say an emergency, but it's a very urgent matter in the sense of COVID hit, I got stimulus checks, what's going on? So he answered these questions from his clients, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 times, and then the light bulb turned on. I should just call a State of the Union and address this because these questions keep coming in and I can't do this individually. So he actually called an impromptu webinar, and he just talked for about 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes max with all of his clients, and he used that Zoom membership piece here, okay? So he was able to have people log in. It was just like a free radio spot, a free PR spot. There was no communication, okay? He couldn't see other people. They could only see him and hear him. He couldn't see or talk to them. And any sort of chat box that was there, it was strictly between him and the other individual. It was not all of his clients together in like a chat room. But he talked about stimulus checks, everything he knew, most of which was grabbed from Google. So it wasn't crazy intellectual information. It was just his clients wanted answers, and they want to hear financial answers from their financial advisor, not having to search for it on Google or on the news. So he did that, and it went over well, but he had a ton of follow-up questions afterwards. Well, hey, what about this situation? Hey, what about this? But then he started getting them again throughout that week. And he did his on a Monday morning, by the way. His was Monday morning at 10 a.m., just by circumstance. That's a time on his calendar that he blocks out to work on things for himself, between 9 and 11. So, later on that same week, though, he had more clients, more and more, ask him about the Secure Act. How does that impact them? What happens now with RMDs? And then, same thing. He answered it 2, 3, maybe 4 times. Then he just said, you know what? We're going to host another impromptu webinar. So he sent another email out to his clients, just an email blast. He had an email marketing service. I forget the actual name of it now, but he could just send a single email blast out to everyone, and they received it, custom, personalized, etc. And when they hopped on the webinar, he did the same thing. Talked for about 10, 15 minutes, all about the Secure Act, that he knew about it, how it impacted them, what he knew now. But here's what was interesting. He did learn that he needed to make sure to ask people not to call his office until he had an opportunity to send out a recap email. So the second time around for the Secure Act, he typed up, which they were really just his bullet point notes, but he typed something up and he said on his webinar, he said something like, hey guys, real quick, I know you might have some follow-up questions. Please refrain from calling the office or reaching out to us until at least 12 o'clock noon. At noontime, I'm going to send out an email, and it's going to have all the information and resources that I'm talking about. It'll have it all on there. So please wait till you receive that to ask any questions. He still got some questions, but they were drastically less, like 80% less. But he sent that email out, and the response he got from one of his A-plus clients changed his entire life. Hey, thanks for this. What is next week's topic going to be about? And then the light bulb turned on again. Wow. He had just inadvertently solved a void, right? That void was successful communication over meaningful topics at a time that matters most with the people that matter most to his business. And he was able to find a way to put all those together. And the byproduct of it was his weekly client webinar. So now, flash forward or flash backwards to then, for the next few months, he was hosting webinars over specific topics. At first, it was just what was happening, top of mind. stimulus checks, Secure Act. If we put it to today, like at the time of recording this podcast, maybe we're talking about the war in Ukraine, we're talking about inflation, we're talking about interest rates. Like, that's the conversation we're having. But he's just trying to educate his clients, creating another opportunity for his clients to engage with his firm without spending a ton of his time. Now, he did this for months and months and months. Okay, almost a full year. He stopped after about 10 months. But what he discovered throughout that process is there's a couple of things. One of which being he discovered that his clients, like the A and B clients that he actually enjoys working with, tuned into the webinar. The ones who we didn't enjoy working with all the time, we all have them, those C, those D clients, they typically didn't engage. And that was okay. But whenever they reach out to him, if they ever reach out to him saying that, hey, we don't hear from you, what's going on, he can anchor back to that. The second thing he realized was his staff felt more educated and involved. You know, when you're in your meeting rooms and you're talking with clients and prospects about, you know, all these different things, these financial topics, sometimes it's really easy to like wrap that up and protect it completely inadvertently. But then you tell something to like, one of your staff members, like, hey, we need to do A, B, and C. Please make sure it happens. Let me know if you have any questions. And they might understand the process, but they don't understand the why behind it or what the actual product or solution even is. So when he started doing these webinars, his staff was also on the call or the webinar. They were watching it, taking notes too. It was education for his staff, so it was a dual purpose. Now, so, you have license issues that might happen where, you talk about, bonds and mutual funds when someone's not securities licensed. These staff members never actually did any advising or recommendations. They just learned. It was education for them. But the third thing that came of this, which I think is actually probably the most underrated aspect, was that clients, where most advisors struggled with client retention during COVID, like on a macro level, he, number one, he never lost a single client, as in like to another advisor. Never lost a single client. Again, friendly reminder here, clients will not leave you due to a lack of performance. They will leave you due to a lack of communication. If they don't feel valued or responded to or connected with, they will seek that connection. Or social creatures. That's what we will do. So it was a good way to stay in front of his clients from a communication standpoint. But the fourth thing that happened is really what we're all after here. He picked up not only just new business. Okay, that's actually the secondary piece. He picked up new business as he was doing this. But he picked up referrals at an exceptional rate. We're talking of the $200 million of assets he moved in 2020, almost half of that was from referrals. Which, to me, really successful, especially someone who actually does a lot of active marketing. So where he typically averages 20 to 25% of his business from referrals, he got 50. So we look at how that happened, what changed. And what changed was the webinar series he was doing. But how it happened was interesting. So he had it set up to where you could see whoever joined the webinar. To get in, you have to put in your name and your email. And it's the email that you initially received the email from. So it was like a preemptive screening there. If you got it to abc@gmail.com, but you put in a Yahoo email, it wouldn't let you in because it wouldn't match that email address to the user. So you had to put in your phone number, your email, and your name. When you got in there, though, you could watch the webinar. Now, there was another area where you could allow people in. He did have a staff monitoring that, so if someone did try to join and it was an email I didn't recognize, the staff could let them in, kind of like how, when you're waiting for the host to start the meeting, that kind of thing. But that created an opportunity for him that he did not see coming. Because you see, when he was doing these webinars, he got to the point after 3 or 4 times, so he's comfortable, right? He's comfortable doing them, spent about a month and a half in. He was sending out a recap email 2 hours later. He was telling his clients, encouraging them not to call his office with questions until that email came in. And when it did come in, he would have them respond to a general email inbox. Okay, he had a specific webinar series inbox that he would ask people to email questions to. His staff could handle it typically, or his associate advisors and paraplanners who were properly licensed. And a lot of times it ended with a phone call just to talk. So he had the bandwidth ready for it. It wasn't his time, it was his team's time that he was able to diversify. But the people who attended the webinar, what they did, and even if they didn't always attend, in that email that they got after the event, after the webinar occurred, there was also in big bold print to the very bottom, be sure to tune in next week when we talk about XYZ topic. Okay? So he laid out what next week's topic was, and he again made it clear it's going to happen at this time, at this URL, this address, and it was always the same time, always the same address. And he included in his newsletters and his client communication too. But clients started to forward his emails to their friends and family. So now he's located in the Midwest, but a client of theirs has their family all living on the West Coast. They forward that email out. Now those people on the West Coast, those referrals, those family members hop on that webinar, or they try to at that time. And he didn't send a recording. He did not do a recording. I want to be clear on that. No recording was sent. But they hop on that webinar series, and then they had to be let in. But what happens was this team, whenever they had an email address or a name or a phone number that wasn't recognized, they would add it to their CRM. And then from there, they would track who attended what events. Who attended what webinars. Pardon me. Now, I hope you can see where I'm going with this now. But all of a sudden, a Sally Sue who's not a client at all, we have no idea who they are, but they're in, call it California. They attended a webinar all about life insurance. Let's say it was Life Insurance Awareness Month, and they attended a webinar the next week that's all about navigating market volatility or how to react when it happens. So now they know this person's engaging with our, at this point, it's not even marketing content, but they're engaging with our firm. They're watching these webinars. And they wouldn't attend the second one unless they found the first one valuable. So what that advisor did, and you could delegate this to one of your staff members too. It doesn't have to be the advisor doing this. But if you have an appointment setter or a phone team, that's who should be doing this, to be clear. But the advisor called, Sally Sue client, Sally Sue prospect out of California. Hey, Sally, my name is Daniel. I'm with XYZ Financial. Hey, I noticed that you had tuned into our last couple of webinars talking about navigating market volatility and life insurance awareness. Hey, I hope you don't mind me calling you because I really am just trying to do the best that I can for my clients when I host these. I hope you've enjoyed them this far. But because you're not a client of ours, I was hoping that I could ask you for some honest feedback on how I can improve or how my team can improve the experience. Would you mind sharing your feedback? Now that language, again, massage it, make it your own, but ultimately we want to make sure that that person knows that they're not a client. And you're not trying to ask them to become a client. You're just looking for feedback how you can be better for your clients. See, that's our goal there. So when you ask them how you can be better for your clients, then you can back into the conversation. Okay, it's kind of like a backdoor referral. Hey, thanks for the feedback. And they'll probably tell you they loved it. If they give you negative feedback, well, then it's a legitimate learning opportunity. It's a win-win. But let's say they give you positive feedback. Awesome. Thanks, Sally, for sharing that. We'll make sure to make those adjustments and changes. And we're glad that you enjoyed it overall, though. But hey, while I got you, I just want to make sure to say thank you to you for spending your time. Hope you found it valuable. I'd love to personally invite you to our next webinar. Okay, next week we're going to be talking about ABC content, whatever. Because remember, they don't get those emails that you send out. The emails only go to clients. So they're relying on clients to forward them the emails to learn what next week's topic is. But after you after you personally invite them to that upcoming webinar, like next week's, ask them this question. I mean, again, massage it, frame it however you want. Hey, Susie, or Sandy Sue, because you're not a client of ours and you attended that webinar, that tells me that one of our clients found it valuable for you to be on that webinar. And while I make this content, while we do these webinars specifically for our clients, they felt that you would value from it, so they invited you. So I would love to know who I can thank for inviting you. Do you mind telling me who sent you that invite or who told you about us? You'll get some people who will not tell you. Okay, that'll happen. But most will. Oh yeah, John Smith sent me. That's okay. That's so cool. I talked with John not too long ago, actually. How do you know John? We were roommates in college, or we did this, we did that. Okay, awesome. And so it's a little bit of small talk there, but then again, you reinforce inviting them onto the upcoming webinar, and then you hang up. And you also want to verify the information is all accurate too. But anyways, then what you do is you make a note to call John Smith, the person who sent them, and you personally thank John. John, hey man, I just got off the phone with Sandy Sue. She said that you guys are friends back in college, blah, blah, blah. Hey, I wanted to personally thank you for inviting her onto that webinar. She said she enjoyed it. She found value in it. That was good thinking on your part. I appreciate you. I'm curious though, like, what made you want to invite her? Did she ask about it, or did you just send it her way? You get into that conversation, right? And you can see where we're going with this. We're backing into the referral. Small talk back and forth. That's awesome. Ask the questions, okay? And then you end with this question. This is powerful. John, do you feel like Sandy would make a good client to our firm, like on the long term? Or is this someone we should just be interacting with exclusively on a webinar basis? John is likely to say that she would make a good client. He would never have referred her to watch your stuff if he didn't like her, and people only associate themselves with people that they would want to spend time with, right? So the likelihood of her being a good client, very high. The likelihood of John saying she'd be a good client, also very high. So after John reinforces, yeah, she'd be a good client. Yeah, I think you'd enjoy working with her. She's really nice. I don't know her situation with financial planning at all, though. That'll come up. You'll hear a lot of that. So you lean into it again. Hey, that's okay. Would you just let her know that if she finds any of this content valuable after the webinar, that she's more than welcome to call into our office, and I'd be happy to have a simple 15 or 30-minute consultation with her and just talk through whatever her situation is. No strings attached, no sales gimmicks, nothing. Strictly because she's a friend of yours. And that's the language, right? Again, massage it how you want, but that language there backs you into a referral. So again, you do this over and over and over again. It becomes a part of your brand. The value becomes, it should be strong in the first place, but it becomes stronger as time goes on. And then your referrals start flowing in. You start finding clients that are coming to meet with you, whether they're in your area or they're doing it virtually from somewhere else. You're going to start to ask them, how'd you hear about us? They're going to tell you your webinar. Okay, that's going to happen. So again, these client webinars are critical. Okay, they are absolutely critical. So again, it's a subject that I'm passionate about because I know it will work.